All right, welcome to part 2 of class 5 of painting clouds, trees, and water. And we are going to start doing a demonstration here based, it's going to be waves and rocks, and basing it on this collage that I made, 3 different photos. And I'm just going to be doing this to get some nice dramatic hard edges, soft edges, crisp edges, lost edges, darks, lights, warms, and cools. So it's going to have a combination of a lot of things going on, and we're going to be building up the texture in some of these waves and rocks as well to create kind of a feeling of density and movement. So this painting is going to have a lot going on, a lot more than my normal paintings. I'm using, we kind of voted as a class what color palette I should use, and we went to a split primary palette, which is my normal palette. 2 yellows, 2 reds, 2 blues, and white. And then I will often have 1 or 2 guest colors. I went ahead and chose a Payne's Gray as one of my guest colors because that's just going to be a shortcut for me. This painting is going to be a lot of grays and cooler colors. So Payne's Gray will allow me to get there quicker. My second guest color is my transparent earth red. I chose Gamblin's Fast Matte Transparent Earth Red. What I'm going to do with this is just like we were talking about in the previous class, I'm going to go ahead and cover the canvas really quickly with it, just a little bit of a tint, so I'm not painting directly onto white. I'm going to put a little bit of Gamsol mixed in with this this transparent earth red, spread it on, and then I'm going to let it sit for 1 or 2 minutes while we talk about something I'm sure really interesting. And I will grab a paper towel and then I will wipe that down so that it's just kind of staining the surface. That is important. And something I neglect to say, I think, in other classes is that I go back and I wipe away when I tint my canvas, because I don't want a whole bunch of paint thinner sitting on there. I don't want it. I don't want a super wet surface to try to be adding paint to. Also, when you leave a bunch of paint thinner, you're destroying the ground. The foundation is very important of will the paint stick to that surface. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Focus. Why are you not focusing?
No focusing.
Oh, just had to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Okay, so the colors I have chose for my split primary palette. I have 1 yellow that leans a little bit more towards green, but this is actually a little bit warmer of a yellow than I would typically use. Typically, I would have more of like a lemon yellow, a cadmium lemon, but I'm using a cadmium free. I've been experimenting with the cadmium free colors by Utrecht. The cadmium free, this is yellow light, so evidently it's kind of a warm yellow though, but this is cadmium free yellow light. Otherwise a lemon yellow or a cadmium yellow light would be my choice here. This is a Indian yellow, very, very transparent, very warm, definitely wants to lean towards orange, but very, very transparent. I jokingly call it the color of light. And it's easy to overdo, and it's also easy to get mixed up. So if you would prefer, you could use like a cadmium yellow medium or any kind of a more orangey yellow in that spot. I like the transparency, and I've played with it long enough. It just does strange things when mixed with other colors. So know that it doesn't always play like an orange does. My red, my warm red that leans towards orange is the cadmium free red light. And then I've got quinacridone red, a very transparent cool. I'm using that as opposed to like alizarin or something like that. I love the quinacridone red because it can go warm or cool. I can do a lot with it. Makes gorgeous purples and mauves and different colors like that. Next to that, I've got my blue that's leaning towards purple is my ultramarine. Very dark, quite transparent, nice color. That's the color that's on most artists' palettes, it seems like. And then next to that, I've got manganese blue, which is very transparent, and it is my blue that leans towards green. So you see I lay out all my colors, one yellow that leans towards green, one yellow that leans towards orange, one red that leans towards orange, one red that leans towards purple, one blue that leans towards purple, and one blue that leans towards green, and kind of makes the whole color wheel. So hopefully that kind of makes sense why I choose my colors. Yes.
A quick question. Why do you choose manganese blue versus cobalt blue?
Cobalt blue would be a true kind of more middle of the road blue. And the truth is, I don't, and it's a manganese blue hue. A true manganese blue is very weak in color and very expensive in price. Cobalt is, I can make cobalt by mixing these two or a very close iteration of it. Just beautiful in between blue.
Okay.
So that's why generally I choose colors that I can make, but I couldn't make a cobalt go towards a manganese. A manganese is really quite blue. It's kind of well, it's a phthalo blue derivative. And so it's a settled down version of phthalo blue. But the manganese makes beautiful, vibrant greens if I ever need that. It also makes very nice, very tropical kind of aquamarine colors, which can be beautiful in the sky.
Beautiful.
So a little bit of your yellow, your cooler, lighter lemon yellow color, and a touch of that makes beautiful. The other reason I like it, and this is kind of counterintuitive, is because you would think to make my best purple, I should actually mix my manganese, my quinacridone red and my ultramarine blue, which does make a beautiful purple, a very dark one. Let's add some white to that so we can see it. Makes a very nice, kind of a true purple. But I actually really almost prefer my manganese blue. Let's get that contaminant out of there. And my manganese blue and quinacridone red. Also makes a very beautiful and lighter purple. So
Okay, now that I've messed up your palette, thank you very much.
What's that? But aren't they all beautiful colors?
Now that yes, they are. And I'm sorry I messed up your palette, but that is gorgeous.
Yeah, well, no, that's good. I love color mixing, and I love just seeing, and I love the questions because it kind of reinforces that, I think you always should be questioning why you're choosing which colors or, what you're doing. I think it's very important. So I'm just hoping I have more of the manganese blue because I just used all of it. So luckily I found something.
Is transparent earth red the same as transparent red oxide?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, different brand names. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly use the transparent earth red or transparent earth oxide, stain that canvas, and then I'm going to come back in over here and I'm going to mix all these beautiful colors together and make what I imagine is going to be some kind of exciting gray. So let's.
Michael, you said you could mix cobalt blue by using, what were the two colors? Can you repeat, please?
Manganese.
And what?
Ultramarine and manganese blue.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not of course, it's not a true cobalt because cobalt's its own
Oh,
mineral, but it's, close enough. But if I was, what, I've always wondered if you're only going to choose one blue, I think cobalt would be a great choice. I see a lot of artists choose ultramarine when they only use blue, but ultramarine sure wants to lean towards purple. So yeah, if you're interested, next winter, I'm sure I'll be teaching it again, my color course where we kind of go into detail and really talk about all of this stuff. Not that I don't want you to ask questions, but just for those of you.
I'll sign up, that's for sure.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm signing up.
Dr. David Pierce.
Yeah.
So Michael, you put the solvent, you laid the solvent on the canvas first and then put the,
I did just a little bit.
oh, okay.
Just so these fast matte paints are very dry and very sticky. They don't want to, they have what artists call a short stroke,
Mhm.
that it just goes and then all of a sudden the paint's over. It's just kind of done. So it's, so you can use a little more paint thinner with it. But again, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to wipe away most all that paint thinner. And you see that it's not dripping. I didn't add that much. There's a little bit of an optical illusion. Spread that. I could really use a paper towel, might be a faster way. You see how big of a brush, I'm just trying to keep things moving. And I actually don't even know what white paint that is. I do not know if that is, because I know there's an old painting underneath this, and it's also a canvas, which I don't use that often. But I was out of 16" by 20" canvases. So if you are painting along, this printout that I gave you is an 8" by 10" size. So it converts very quickly to a 16" by 20", right? It's just double the proportion. All right, so there we go. I've got a stained canvas or a painted canvas. I will let that sit for just a minute, hoping that it's kind of soaking in a little bit and tinting the canvas. Like I said, I will use this time to clean up my palette a little bit here, make some space for all our beautiful new grays that we're going to be mixing and putting on there. And it's always kind of fun to see what color does it make, and is it going to be useful in my painting? Or I'm sure it'll be useful because it's paint. I can use it as just body to build up.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I think that's going to be fantastic. Kind of a really nice. Ooh, it's already so beautiful against that warm earthy color. So I'm just going to pile that up, set it aside because I want to make space to make more intentional colors. But that is beautiful gray we'll be able to use, I am sure. Take my paper towel, wipe off my palette just a little bit. Even though this painting's primarily going to be gray, just variations on gray, and I still want to keep, it's kind of, I like to have kind of a clean palette. I'm always amazed when artists can paint on really big, messy areas. I've never been like that. I like to kind of try to keep things clean, and oftentimes even midway through a painting, I'll kind of take a little bit of a break and kind of clean up my palette. I'll scrape my colors up into bigger piles, and pretty glary over here, but hopefully you'll be able to see that. How does it work if I move this a little more sideways? Is that too much? I just don't want my arm to be in the way of this big canvas. That's probably too much of an angle.
If you back it up a little, that could work.
All right, let's back it up, and I can always move it again. So we'll just kind of start here. And then let me know.
Good. Here we
All right, I'm going to
Okay.
take a towel and I'm going to, with light pressure, I'm just going to kind of wipe this away. All I'm doing is this paper towel is basically soaking up all the runny paint thinner, right? It's soaking up some of the thicker paint, and it just gives me a nice and even surface. There's going to be a little bit of a slip to it, right? My paint's going to kind of skim across this as I add it, but much less than if I had it dripping and, you know, really a lot of paint thinner. And you don't have to tint your canvases. This is not a need to do. This is just kind of for those of us who don't always want to paint on a white canvas, or maybe find the white canvas intimidating. This is a nice way. Also, by tinting the canvas, whatever areas are thinner or I have, you know, don't have paint, you'll still have some color. You don't have the bright white spots. I like the earthy colors often. I oftentimes, even like a painting like this where it's going to be reds, grays, I still kind of like a warmish color underneath. And again, that is just a matter of taste. It would totally make sense if I just even used a Payne's gray and did this, or the ultramarine blue and did this. It would totally work just the same. But you know, you're just gonna have kind of a slightly different feel. So let's go ahead and sketch out kind of our big shapes. Let me get a little tape. I don't think it's actually gonna stick to that. Just so you guys can kind of see the reference as I'm doing it. I won't have that up here for very long because pretty soon I'll need this space for mixing colors. So let me grab a little bit of tape. Yeah, blue tape and paper and blue paper towels are the things I buy in bulk, like mini rolls at a time. I go through this stuff a lot just because I paint the edges of my surfaces are blue. I don't know if you can see the blue yet on the edge there. And using it for this and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so in my initial photo of this, my horizon line literally split right up the middle. So I had to work kind of hard to kind of lower my horizon line, and it's still a little closer to halfway than I want. So to get over that, what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to let my horizon line dissipate into the sky a little bit. I'm going to actually make that disappear a little bit. I'm going to soften that edge, and I'm going to make the wave that's kind of coming along here in a more exciting manner become more of the focal point, which will lower this line. So if I were to split this into thirds, this area here and this area here kind of are going to become kind of my more important areas. Also up here where the top, the light's going to be hitting through these clouds is going to be pretty interesting. So it's kind of stay within the central quadrant, but it's going to be kind of an L shape of interest. Right? And then with some interesting lines, because I don't want all horizontals and verticals. So I'm going to work and play up some of the angles that are in there as well, so that there's a sense of movement and motion. Right? You guys remember that the horizontals will represent oftentimes a calm, and calm lines, vertical lines oftentimes will represent strength, and angled lines will give us motion and movement and excitement. Going to use a little bit of that earth red, the iron oxide red, transparent earth red, as just to kind of get my drawing in. So my horizon line kind of is approximately, what would that be? 1. So Not quite, it's a little less than halfway. So halfway would be here at 8 inches, the 16 inch. So mine's right at about 10 inches. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. My rock base is kind of right about here. This one's a little higher. This rock's actually a little further away. You can kind of decide how big I want it. Again, I just kind of use my references as a jumping off point. I'm not too stuck with them.
Those are the needles, right?
Yeah, they are the haystack needles at Cannon Beach. Yeah, Cannon Beach has been kind of going crazy lately. They sold, I think, 5 paintings pretty much in the last couple of days. Some big ones. One was 60 inches, in fact. So they will need some new work. So with that in mind, you know, if you're gonna paint some rocks, Cannon Beach has definitely got beautiful rocks. I'm actually going to bring this a little further away. I'm noticing that I'm squishing it a little bit towards this edge, and I want to counter the balance. So if this one's closer to the edge, this one probably needs to come in a little bit away. If you think kind of like a teeter-totter, where if this was me on the teeter-totter, to make it so, actually it's kind of the opposite anyways. Kind of, I was gonna say, I need my daughter to move in because she weighs a lot less than me.
Michael, I was at the spring unveiling and yeah, congratulations on your sales. They did really well there. And I happened to come in while Chuck Gumpert was, you know, painting and speaking with a woman who I didn't know, and they were talking about you.
What? That's awesome. I love Chuck's work. Chuck is one of those abstract painters that I really, really appreciate his work and his colors. So that's nice. Hopefully they were saying good things.
Yes, they were, and talking about you as a teacher and as an artist, and yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, no. Yeah, I like Chuck as a person, and he's a great painter. We don't talk that often, mostly when we just run into each other out there at the gallery, but yeah, I love his color schemes. I think our color schemes are kind of similar in that we both really like the earthy colors and warm auburny colors. And the funny thing is, like, you think, oh man, these needles they're so popular, right? Everybody, you know, that goes to Cannon Beach kind of knows the needles. They've got to be just right. But the truth is, if you just every slight angle shift on these rocks, and they look so different. So you just kind of guys got to get them, you know, this is one of those close enough is close enough, or, you know, maybe I don't even care if they look right. I want them to look like how I want them to feel, rough and jaggedy and, you know, weathered, and like they've just been sitting out in these massive waves for years and just taking a beating, and they just really sit out there and really share that strength and that resilience, and the fact that the weather has been carving them, slowly shaping them. My reference is very dark. It's just a big dark mass. So I can bring in and, you know, pretend that there's more shape to these rocks. I may even want to look up some of my photos that I took while I was out there and figure out kind of what their structure would be, so that I can hint at a little bit of light, because again, the camera really wants to darken these up. So I may do that maybe on the next break. I'll see if I can't pull up a couple pictures of the needles and just kind of figure out what exactly is going on in there, maybe just a little bit. I don't need a whole lot of information, but a little bit, just so I don't just have two dark, solid black masses. All right, so this is going to be a nice wave that I'm going to dissipate and break up. It comes down, and then it really comes up here, and it's gonna kind of appear to be kind of splashing, either not against these rocks because it's coming away, but really kind of, and it's gonna have this soft edge, lots of foam, and there, and then this line, it's gonna go up and down and slightly back up. So I'm just looking for the big shapes. I am not worrying about detail. And I'm more, in fact, I just want to make sure I get some nice elegant lines, some nice sense of movement, some rhythm. And then I'm going to step back and I'm going to say, you know what, is it doing what I want? You know, is it enough just to kind of make it look like the reference? Maybe, but most likely it's more important that I get it to feel like how I want it to feel. So, you know, maybe this drawing isn't as beautiful as, you know, you might wish or whatever else, but this is just information for me. That's the hardest part. Again, I say this all the time. Hardest part about plein air painting is knowing that people are coming around and being like, duh, what's this guy doing? This sucks. This guy can't draw. This guy doesn't know, you know, what he's doing. So you just have to be kind of immune to that when you're out plein air painting in a public space, you know, Cannon Beach, along the rocks, Haystack Rock, one of the most, you know, visited places in all of Oregon, you know, painting at the gorge or anywhere else. You just kind of got to go, you know what, it's gonna be ugly for a while. Hopefully eventually it gets better, and you know, hopefully they come back and see it later, or I'll, you know, use that as an excuse to hand them my business card and say, you know what, you need to check out my website in the next couple of days and I'll have it posted on there. You can see what it looks like finished if it gets better. But it's got to go through its awkward growth phases.
The awkward.
I call that the pimply stage.
Yeah, the awkward teeth
Yeah.
is what I call it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my clouds, I'm going to go ahead and show you because we talked about tangents a little bit during our critique time. If you see how I collaged this painting, the cloud, the top of this cloud, the top where it gets dark, look what it does. It literally runs exactly along the edge of this rock, doesn't it? Right? So if I was just trying to make it look as much like the reference, I would put my cloud bank right there. And let me just put that line in so you can see it. You'll just go, well, that looks stupid. It looks like it's wearing a hat. Right? If I put my cloud right there, right on top, it just looks dumb. And the rock, it looks like the rock and the clouds are supporting each other. Right? And in truth, they don't know that the other one exists. They don't really affect each other besides by colors and, you know, emotion. So I want this rock to feel nice and tall, proud. So I'm going to bring the clouds just underneath it. All right. It kind of does this interesting shape that I'm going to be able to kind of use to reinforce some of the wave motion. So you see, they're big shapes, quite messy. This, you know, very much the opposite of last week, right? When I just kind of came in and wiped everything away to do it. And I might still be able to do a little bit of that here. Got this big burst of light that's going to be kind of poking from behind this edge here. So I'm just kind of getting some lines for some motion. Just seeing what shapes. Right? And if I wanted to, just to, make it easier, and because I know this is going to be adding white paint and some light, I can still come back in and even wipe some of that away. If it's helpful to me, maybe it'll make applying the paint a little easier because there's less paint there, it will get less confused, or maybe I just remove it so that I know that this is kind of the brightest area up here. This is literally going to be where the sun is poking through, is right there. So I can kind of just give myself some hints, help me to remember my lightest lights right along that area. Then my other lightest lights, are kind of up in the sky. And then my lightest lights in the water are actually going to be here. So this light will be coming down, catching the mist that's going to be skimming across the tops of these waves. This is going to be light here where the mist is coming up here, but it's going to be cool because it's going to be in the shadow of this rock, whereas this is going to be warm mist because it's catching the light. Does that make sense? So this shadow will be casting, but it's still lighter, but it's cooler. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And then my foreground water will actually all be quite light because that's going to be just a big cauldron of frothy foam, all getting kicked up in here along these rocks that are hiding underneath the waves. And it's kind of shallow and it's just crashing down. So also there's just all this, this is going to be really dense. I'm going to put a lot of paint, hopefully, into this foreground to really add some texture and movement. So does that kind of, I'm going to straighten that out. Hold on, don't get seasick. Do you kind of see why I'm doing it this way a little bit? As again, just notes. I'm into this drawing for about 10 minutes, but I've got some good information here to kind of help me understand kind of what I want, what I'm going to be looking for, where my lights, my darks. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and go from dark to light, from thinner paint to thicker paint. So a lot of the last final paint I'll be adding will be in some of these highlighted areas where the paint will be more opaque, thicker, and building up. So next thing I'll do is add my darks, which is going to be, of course, these rocks. The base underneath the bottoms of some of these waves will be quite dark. And now all of a sudden I will have kind of a 3-value painting that I'll be able to see. I'll have this mid value that's most of the painting now, the lights where I subtracted, and then I'm going to come in with my darks. So that'll be how I attack this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. Let's make gray. Beautiful, beautiful gray. All right, so first thing we know is we want these to be quite dark. My reference, they're very dark, but again, I'm pulling these from, it's a collage. So I may actually even lighten these up just a touch, maybe, or especially towards the bottom where I've got some foam getting kicked up. And I'm going to make this rock slightly lighter in value than this one, so that it even plays up that sense of perspective that much more. That makes sense also? I guess I don't need to keep asking that. You guys are all smart.
Good.
You can ask questions if I'm not making sense. So let's make a nice dark. So I've got my Payne's gray to start with. I'm just gonna mix, these are two different types of Payne's gray. I'm just gonna mix them together so I don't end up getting in trouble with that. I'm gonna go ahead and use my earth red, mix it in there. Let's get some blue in there. Very, very, very dark. I don't know if I even want anything hardly that dark in my painting. You can kind of think about it for a second. I'm just going to go ahead and mix some of this gray that we had made previously in there. Beautiful bluey gray, love it. If you remember when I mixed this gray, that was just cleaning the palette when I was just giving a little color example, and it had all the colors in it, all 6 colors were in there. And oftentimes I will be using all 6 colors in almost every color, right? That seems weird, but it's just a little bit of, you know, this and much more of that. Send this towards blue a little more. So just so they relate, I'm going to take this and I'm probably going to make this the value over here. And I'm going to take a little bit of the 2 and combine them. And probably make that the value over here, a little darker. Okay. So let's just see how that does, shall we? With a paintbrush. I like to keep my darks pretty thin so I can kind of push those around a little bit. I added a little bit of paint thinner, but it probably wasn't necessary. It's a little too slippery now, or a little more slippery than I would want it possibly. And I'm just painting big shapes, dark to light. That's one of my favorite ways to build up my oil paints. It's the way that seems to work most often the best. Big shapes to small shapes, dark shapes to light shapes, and thinner paint, not as slippery as this is appearing to be, to thinner to thicker. Just seems like a better, easier way to keep adding more paint. All right, let's go over to this next value. It's just slightly lighter, but it'll be perceptible, I hope, so that people will kind of realize, oh, this rock's just a touch further back. I like to kind of get my painting covered. As you can kind of see, I'm using a nice big brush. What is this? A size 10 probably. Yep, nice big size 10 brush. I'll be able to come in and get my detail and refine the shapes and stuff. But I just want to kind of get it covered and see how are the different values playing together? How are my different colors playing together? I know that there's going to be a lot of mist here and here, so I'm not quite painting all that dark all the way up to it. I'm going to leave some room for gradation as we get towards the lights. Feel free to ask questions as I'm painting if you've got any. Just added a little bit of lighter paint there. Again, just using that luckily wonderful gray that we've got. All right, so very quickly, you can now see, I'm gonna move it over just a touch. I've got very much strong 3 values, right? I got my lightest light areas, my mids mostly, and then I'm starting to throw in the darks. So, you know, it's beginning to take a bit of a structure, right? A little bit of a form. Let's get some more darks down into our water so we can really start to test things. But that being said, I want to, they're probably not going to be exactly the same darks as are going to be in my rocks, right? We're dealing with a different subject, a different matter, but I do want them to relate. I want them to be in the same world and in the same colors. I mean, the same environment. So let's kind of think, what colors could our darks in our water be? Gonna let it go. I'm gonna let my water probably get a touch on the green side. So I'll add a little more blue. Maybe I'll add a little bit of my Indian yellow, because Indian yellow makes a very ugly green because there's quite a bit of red in it. And I want ugly, I don't want a beautiful, strong green at the base of my waves. I just want a greenish dark, and probably not vibrant. And now I'm still just thinking very abstractly, just where's the darks, where's the lights, where's the warms, where's the cools. I'm not thinking wave too much or rocks too much or anything like that. It's just lights, darks, and colors. Really try to keep your brain in an abstract way of thinking, just shapes, values, colors. Squinting my eyes at my reference a lot. Just again, so I'm not focusing on these big shapes and big value shifts. Here's the base up here where it's not much. It's not, I don't want any strong solid lines. It's just little bits of the shadow underneath the roiling surf. So it's just gonna be little peekaboos of shadow and dark. And this is why you
Is
don't
that dark looking green to your eyes?
Is the what?
The dark in the waves looking green to your eyes? Because to mine, it looks kind of a grayish blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably closer to that. It's just going to be slightly greener than the one above it. So I don't know if you can see over here. If I add white to that, you'll probably be able to see it go towards green a little more.
And the camera
What's that?
doesn't pick it up so well.
All right, so yeah, we're losing the yellow. You'll just have to trust me. It's gonna go, and it doesn't matter too much because it is gonna be just really quite dark. But it's just something to kind of think about again, that it's, you know, a shadow area. So it's gonna be a darker iteration of the thing it is, right? Which is gonna be kind of this greenish, you know, oceany surf color. You know, the Oregon coast has that kind of, often has kind of a greenish feel to it, you know, and you could completely change that to whatever. If you're like, I don't want green water in my ocean painting, cool, don't put it in. I totally get it. Green is kind of an ugly, weird color for ocean sometimes. And
Like the Atlantic.
yeah, very well, yeah, very cold feeling that way. All right, so that's my 3 values. I've got my lightest areas kind of marked out, and I could, you know, if I really wanted to serve as a reminder to myself, I could just say, you know what, it's really going to be quite light up here. And quite light in here, but I kind of probably don't want to add too much. My mids, which are going to get much, much cooler. These are going to get taken over by grays here in just a second. A lot more light down here. So now I get to, I'm afraid I'm gonna take away the reference, but I don't know if you guys could see it very well anyways, because I'm gonna want this mixing area. So I put it at the very bottom. You guys can still kind of see it? At least right now you can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get enough, but so this gives me a little more mixing area. So I can kind of, to give myself more area, I just take my palette knife and pile these paints back into a nice pile, because I probably want to use them again as I'm, finishing off my rocks. And again, when I take a break, I will look up the needles and see kind of what's their structure, so I can hint at it a little bit when I get into there. I'm gonna go ahead and mix colors kind of from the top coming down. And it's gonna be just a variation on grays, which is, I love grays. They're always a good, fun challenge. I love the subtlety and the, trying to find the color within the gray. So I'm not just gonna be using black and white. I'm gonna be using all these colors, these bright, vibrant colors that exist way outside on the color wheel. And by combining them all together, bringing them towards the middle of the color wheel, towards where all the grays and the browns and the beautiful colors exist. So let's go ahead and just do an example. I'm gonna start off at the top of my sky up here. Well, actually, no, let's start off with the biggest band of clouds. Is this big bank of clouds that exists here, right? I'm gonna make that kind of a bluey, greeny area, and it's gonna have a little bit of a pink. It's gonna get a little pinker towards the edge and a little pinker towards the horizon. So what did I just say? A big bluey, greeny color. So let's start with our nice, vibrant manganese blue. Add a touch of ultramarine blue. Mix those together when I should end up with just kind of a nice dark. I'm gonna add a touch of my quinacridone red. And add a tiny bit of my red, warm red, the cadmium free. And I'm gonna skip my Indian yellow, and I'm gonna add a touch of my cadmium free yellow. So I've got basically all the colors up here. Mix those together. Makes a very, just hideous color. It's very dark brick red is how I'm seeing it, kind of a gray, dark brick red. I said I want it to go towards green. I do like it, and I think it has potential. So I'm going to pull a little bit of it aside. So now I've got this size, and I'm going to grab a bunch more of my manganese blue, mix that in. It should completely subdue, or not completely, but really kind of bring that red back under control, and it does. The cadmium free red is a very strong color compared to any of these others. It's the two cadmium free colors are my two only opaque colors. They're going to be the strongest. So just knowing that when I'm mixing them with transparent colors, I will want to use less of those. Pretty ugly. Let's mix some white in with it so we can see what kind of a gray do we have. So it's really quite beautiful, but not the colors of gray I was looking for. So I still think we can get towards bluer. Add a little bit of the Payne's gray, which, as we know, has quite a bit of ultramarine blue in it. Grab some ultramarine blue and let's see what happens now. There we are. Definitely bluer and cooler. If I was smart, I'd make a nice big pile of this, because this is kind of this mid color, so it's kind of going to be probably relating to all the other colors. So let's go ahead and just make that a big pile. definitely like the mother color of the painting. All the other colors will basically be relating to this. Either darker, lighter, warmer, cooler, redder, you know what I mean? They can all branch out in all their different iterations. But I am liking that. It's kind of a nice middle gray that I'll put along here. Got a nice, pretty good sized pile of it. Okay, I'm gonna let it get towards purple, so I'm gonna mix it with a little more red. So this will be kind of on the horizon line, as well as kind of along the edge of the sky. All right.
Boy, when you have those two piles there, then the mother color now looks a little more greenish.
Right, yeah, red will make, yeah, will bring out the green. And just like I was showing you on the Pinterest page, right, where I just kind of look at those different colors and I'm almost ignoring a little bit, you know, it's in the back of my mind what I'm going to be getting to, but right now I'm just like, what colors would look good with this? You know, what would, how would that play nicely together? This one should be a little greener. And I'm just kind of bouncing around a little bit through this painting, just kind of going, okay, you know, what areas do I need to cover? What colors might need to be there? Let's go ahead and think up some of our warms that are going to be traveling through here and also through here, but should relate nonetheless with what's going on there. So let's add a little bit of quinacridone, a big bunch of yellow, and bring it a little closer so you guys can see. This is going to get super hot orange, which of course we won't be able to use. That would be just crazy to put that in there with these probably. It's going to be much lighter. Beautiful color though, love it. I'm just seeing how much can I get away with. Would that work with these and as highlights, as special areas? I don't know. We'll have to test it. Just kind of, again, scanning my eyes around it, kind of just deciding who gets to be what, where, what values. I'll definitely be adding and lightening up areas. So let's go ahead and, well, first I'm going to take a quick sip of water while I step back and kind of start to look at it. But I think I have enough information that I can start to at least get things covered and see how everything is relating and then doctor it up. And really bear with me for 1 second. I'm just kind of bring up a reference to see. But I've got ducks all over my screen. All right, I think I'll just keep working and then again during break, try to get back in and see if I can find some rocks. Until. All right, so big to small, thin to thick, dark to light. Keep that going. Already instantly by putting that down, I'm like, yeah, that's really dark. It's a lot closer to the rock value than I wanted it. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some light, some white up into that gray, lighten it up. Even grab a little bit of the more blue gray because I want it to be cooler as we are further away from the light source. Add a little more light to that and add a little more warmth to it as I get a tiny bit closer to the light. A little bit too light. So bring back in some of that. It's constantly back and forth, constantly testing. And just getting big areas covered. I can come back in and manipulate and add paint on top because I'm keeping my paint pretty thin. Yeah, there's definitely artists out there who like the idea of putting down their brush once, putting down the right color, the right value in the right place the first time. I'm not like that. I kind of like the idea of letting my paint be a little more sculptural, meaning letting myself manipulate it and move it around. I want to get the paint onto the surface. Begin to see how it plays together, how the colors and values are working together. Letting it have its awkward teenage years, as we were just talking about, right?
So Michael,
Yes, sir.
so up there, are you going cooler again?
Yep, goes back to cooler. So it's kind of going to be like a little area where the clouds are peeking through. The sun is kind of peeking through some of the clouds a little bit. Yeah, not positive exactly, but I'm. should
Michael,
probably-
it looks like you're using a softer brush. Is it a bristle?
Yeah, it's just a big size 10 flat bristle brush.
Okay, looks softer than that. Okay.
Just kind of testing, warm areas, light areas. darker, lighter, seeing kind of how it wants to work together. All right, I'm going to duck down into my darks down here as well. I'm just kind of hanging on to this big brush for dear life here, seeing how long it'll let me keep using it until I need to get to a smaller brush, but so far feeling okay. With the full knowledge that any of these colors can be changed completely as I build it up, I'm just, again, almost still more worried a little bit about my values, my lights and my darks, trying to make sure they are playing and feeling good together. Keeping an idea of structure. So if we go back to the first class we did in this series of the painting clouds, and remember how I thought of the bottom side of the clouds with the shadows, the top with the light, and the in-betweens with the mid values, and really thinking about structure, almost like treating them somewhat geometrically. I'm doing the same with these waves and with the different things. So I know that the light's coming from behind, the shadow is going to be underneath where they're kind of rolling over. And I've got the side facing away from the sun. Here's kind of what I'm putting in now, is in shadow, but it's still a white foam. So it's not going to be nearly as dark as the shadow kind of trapped underneath the water, underneath the little wave. And I'm still just kind of going dark to light. So I'm kind of a little bit past my darkest darks and now getting into some of the other darks, the mid values. Just kind of looking at little bits of darks and water and kind of mixing in with the foam back there. Does that kind of make sense how I kind of thinking darks to lights, going slowly as I get a little lighter, just kind of filling in? It's not always like that. It's not super, super scientific. You can always kind of bounce around a little bit, but again, the shadows or the darks are often what I will use in my paintings to just kind of give me the structure, the bones, the foundation, whatever you want to call it, to build up on, to let my colors kind of come through, even though this will be mostly grays. I'm really trying to kind of think of, okay, what color, what value is that horizon line? Because I want it to be lighter than some of these rocks that are in the foam or in the mist a little bit, probably, but darker than this area. And I want it to meet in the middle. So it's a trick, right? There's a lot of real thinking of how do I make these values meet each other, work well together. So what I'm doing is warming up this area and take that warmth that's kind of on the horizon line. And I bring some of that down into the water just below, slightly blue, slightly greener. And I think I said earlier that I want to have kind of a soft horizon line, as if you don't know exactly where the ocean and where the clouds meet up, so that our eye isn't so attracted to this strong line, because again, I want to bring you into this L formation, hopefully, with movement in there. So get cooler as we go in there. So before I was just kind of putting colors and values kind of splotchy around to see how they play. And now I'm actually putting them up next to each other. So it's becoming more relevant that they actually work together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my horizon line warm color, this kind of purpley peachy color, and I'm going to lighten along that horizon line a little bit. And I'm going to take that same brush, or I could pick up a new one. Fred, this is what I was talking about blending edges, if you're there still. I just
Yep.
grabbed a clean, dry brush. I'm just going to lightly drag that where those two meet. And I want that line to be retained, but I want it to be so subtle that it doesn't draw any attention. Your brain will just go, huh, the horizon line's back there, hopefully. But it's so soft that I'm really just saying, yeah, but it's not that important. It's there so that we don't fall off the earth, but it's so subtle that I really want you to stay in this area. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And I could probably even get lighter with it a little bit.
Those colors are all working together so well.
It's incredible.
Not bad for making it up off a quick look on Pinterest. Teamwork makes the dream work. All of us voting to paint by committee. And just like a good team, when I sell it, I'll take all the money and all the credit.
Is 16 by 20 a size you paint a lot?
Yeah, it's a pretty common size. It's easy to move around. It's easy to sell. Yeah, it's a nice size. 30 by 40, 16 by 20 are two of my favorite sizes. I mean, I like the 9 by 12s and the 12 by 16s, but there's not a lot of money in it. You know what I mean? I can paint lots and lots of those throughout the year and not make as much as if a couple big ones. I don't know. I don't want it to all be about that, of course. And I like to have kind of all sizes in there for people. I know we only have 15 minutes left. Is that true? How did today go so fast? Because you guys painted all those beautiful paintings we had to talk about, which is good.
Doesn't this class go till 1?
Oh, no?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just wishing.
So,
Yeah, maybe today it does if you guys are willing to hang out. I'm in no hurry to be done painting this because I would like to actually take a break and pull up my reference so I can actually see what's going on in here. But I just need 1 minute to pull up some references. So take a break, grab some tea. The class is gonna go long. I just need to find my initial references before I collaged over them and went crazy and made
Can
them
I
all.
say to him, can you just write me something on Facebook about my painting? It was,
Sure, who's talking? Sorry.
oh, that's me. Michael Susan Siegel.
Susan,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was thinking out loud. Okay, could you just write me something on Facebook about the painting I did? I spent 3 days doing it, and I also went down when the sun came out.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see it.
No, don't apologize. Other people too have their spot, but it was very difficult for me. I don't want to take your time now, but if you could just write a sentence or two,
Of course.
and then I just read it. And
Yep, no problem. I will definitely do my best to remember to get back over to that. And
oh no, and if you forget, no sweat. I won't be angry. We can always talk next week.
all right. Feel free to always send me all caps, lots of exclamation points, angry email if you need to.
Oh,
remind me.
I'm not that kind of person.
Come
I
on.
appreciate everything that you do. I'm learning a lot. I like it.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I
sorry for
wanna
this
also-
little break here. I'm really, I seriously can't find my photo that I used. My 3 photos I used to collage it. I hope I didn't delete the original image. That would be really strange. All right, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. Oh, that. Interesting. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you for your,
here,
We're here.
I appreciate your bearing with me for just a minute. Must have it in a whole different section or I accidentally deleted it yesterday. Aha. Let's just, nope. Huh. Doesn't go back to the original format.
Maybe a quick Google search.
Well, yeah, it's not online. It's just on a couple of my photos that I mixed up. Huh. Well, I might just have to make up more of it than I thought, which probably is a good thing. I just wanted to see what do those rocks actually look like, because I was the one that darkened them up.
Do you want me to forward you the email you sent with the picture? Would that?
Oh, but yeah, but it's already kind of destroyed in that I have like
Oh.
I've lost the information by the time because there I've flattened it down.
Oh,
I had it in 3 or 4 or 5 layers.
that's okay. Take your time. We're all patient.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, I think I found it, but it's not a whole lot of information anyways. All right, well, let's work from what I'm seeing here. And
I just emailed one to you.
okay, sorry, I should have had all these laid out in an easy to find way earlier
I just emailed one to you that's pretty good.
of the rocks. Let's see if I go to my inbox. Haven't gotten the email yet. Nope, I'm not getting the email, unfortunately. Hopefully it pops up. But I'll just keep working and see what we got going. So you guys are still here. Sure looks like a lot of orange going on. What I wanted to kind of see was what's actually happening in these clouds. Where's light, where's dark? And what I wanted to do is kind of it's like the very top of very faint clouds up here with the light kind of coming through, but I don't know.
Hey, Michael, can you get closer to your mic?
Yeah, did it get quiet?
Yeah, for me it did anyway. I don't know about everybody else.
Change?
I think because he was sitting at the desk earlier
Oh.
looking, and so he was closer to the mic.
Okay,
I just extended it out towards me. So hopefully that's a little better.
yep, it is. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that, you guys. That was a little 5-minute of me madly going through my computer trying to figure out what's going on.
Please don't apologize. You give so much. Thank you for all that you do.
Oh no, thank you.
That's true. Don't you apologize.
Oh, let's keep bringing in our values. So it's going to get a little bit lighter again. So that's kind of the top of the wave, the foamy wave rolling over in the shadow of this big rock. Because remember, my sun's kind of up here. So I'm kind of having to make that part up and think of which parts are in shadow, which parts are going to be catching the light, and how are they differing, but yet related. So fun challenge when you kind of make up things a little bit when you're not just painting directly. So a lot of times, especially as a beginner, it's not a bad idea to just find a good photo and kind of paint directly from it and try to mimic it. But for some reason, I guess coming from illustration background and stuff, I've always wanted to kind of make up things. It's just like I was never the kid that, opened the Legos and made what was on the box cover. So I think, yeah, it's just important to just kind of know your personality type. If, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking a good photo and following along and just kind of, you know, trying to replicate it, especially again, like I said, as you're learning, because you're just trying to mix colors, create values and everything else.
Did you leave the area around the rocks because that's going to be kind of sunlit?
Only on the side that's kind of more facing it. The rocks are going to actually get a little bit wider. And I'll use that to kind of come in with my detail to kind of give the rocks their carved out formation a little bit. So yeah, that is a good question. And they're bothering me now. So I will get back to those here soon. But I'm still trying to really just kind of see how much can I get away with? What colors are going to work? Because I want it to be subtle. I want it to be calm, but at the same time, I don't want it to be outright boring. So it's everything's, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just seeing what fits, what works. This is where the light would be kind of coming down and actually getting through this wave a little bit. So I'm just kind of seeing, you know, does that work or does that look silly? Does that look too artificial? You know, and that's probably why I took the photo there. Is just I really wanted to capture that light of the backlit wave, but does it work in a super overcast, you know?
I have a question.
Please.
You're laying down the colors, okay, the darks and lights. Would you eventually be blending them together when at the end, or are just going to lay them down and let the eye mix it?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where you're going to have the hard edge, crisper edges versus the
Okay.
soft edges.
Thank
So
you.
when I need the soft edge is where I'll come through and really kind of soften those up and blend them, kind of like I did with the horizon line, where I really didn't want the viewer. I want you to know there's a horizon line, but I didn't want it to be a focus of the painting. In fact, I really want you to come down below that horizon line. So it's a trick, right? Like, how do I have a thing that's necessary? Otherwise, the painting just floats away. But I don't want it to be important. And oftentimes it's by bringing the contrasts close together so that there's not a strong contrast. And by softening the edges are the two main things that will draw the viewer. So strong contrast as in lights, colors, values, temperatures. It can be contrasts of anything. Also strong edges, right? Sharp edges draw our attention. It can also even be a contrast of line. If I've got a painting full of horizontals and I throw one diagonal line in it, that line will draw attention.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really interesting. It's fun and scary making up a painting anytime. And it's fun and scarier to make it up in front of, you know, 8 of your best friends. And to do it in a time limit. Yeah. What kind of weirdo masochists are we artists, right? Or just build a challenge for yourself, set it out for whatever reason. Make it a little just difficult enough so that it's a challenge. Maybe push it a little harder than that, and then try to solve it. You know, design a problem and try to solve it. And then the funny thing is, it doesn't have a right answer or a wrong answer. It just has a does this make me happy answer. And right now, it's up for debate. But I'm getting towards the light, so it should start to come together. And then don't worry, I will come in and get rid of those weird fiery force fields that are around the outside here. But right now, I kind of want to get this covered because it's so big and so garish. I could probably get down here too, just so it's kind of covered.
Will any of that be sand colored or is it all ocean, all
It's
ocean?
gonna be mostly all just foam. Yeah, there's not going to be any beach in this painting. I want you to feel like you're right up there against those rocks and kind of wet feet in the waves. I hope. Yeah, sometimes I like to put the viewer in the creek. Other times I like to give them a bank that they're standing on. Sometimes I like to give you a little, you know, nice beach to stand on, keep your toes nice and warm. Other times it's like, nope, you're in it. You're in the surf. Or you're doing the whole running back away from the waves before they get to you thing that we all love to do when we were little.
Not just when we're little.
Not just when we were little, exactly right. Basically, every time we go to the beach, right?
Right.
We like to tempt fates. All right, so I'm going to bring my lights in here, which is going to be so fun. I'm going to bring my lights in here, which is going to be so fun. So before I get to that candy treats, I want to make sure I get up here. I'm going to make myself earn it. I'm going to make you guys earn watching it. So let's get a little more gray up above before we get into some of the bright colors. So what colors do I want to go? I want to go towards the pinks, but still kind of retain gray. Get a little pinker, get a little bit lighter, still retaining gray. And it's going to get to warms. Sneaking up on it. I can feel it. It's getting warmer. My heart rate's going up. It's getting a little more excited.
This is going to be so beautiful.
Don't mess it up, Orwick. All right, as this orange slowly starts to disappear, hopefully it'll become a little more special. And before it was almost annoyingly abundant and over the top. And as I keep sneaking in and covering, hopefully going on over here, more pink. And I say pink, right? But it's really not pink. It's very gray, but it's pinker, I should say. Say what you mean and mean what you say. but I think you guys understand when I say pink that it's not obviously bright pink or anything like that. It's just pinker than the area around it. A little more fuchsia, a little more mauve. Is mauve with like a grade down fuchsia? Is that how I should use that color terminology?
I think it's a purpley pink.
Purpley pink, okay. Yeah, so much of my terminology comes from, flowers or listening to women talk about bridesmaids dresses. Moss green, dusty rose. All right, let's go. Let's get exciting. I love the underside of this toolbox that is my tabaret, where my giant palette is, has about a 4-inch gap underneath it. So my toes are always underneath it and my hips are up against it as I'm painting. And I like when I need to lean back or to get away from the painting really quickly for just, a quick glance to see it more completely. All I do is tuck my toe and lean back. Tuck my toe up against the bottom of it and lean back, and it kind of holds me in place as I arch my back backwards. And it's kind of funny. I just caught myself doing that. And I wonder how many times a day I do that. Maybe keep me nice and limber. It's my painter's yoga. Still sneaking up on that vibrant or the warmer area up in the sky.
It's interesting to see how as you're filling in the sky, then the tops of the waves are becoming much more dramatic.
Pronounced, yeah, isn't that interesting? You're right. How, yeah, anytime you start, the less of a thing, the more special the thing. Something to remember too in your painting is, a couple roses will make the roses special. If you have a whole painting of a huge bouquet close up of roses, they'll be beautiful still probably because they're roses, but they won't be as special. Or a couple red spots or whatever. There we go. You see how I can just kind of go right over the top of those colors and change them where I need them to blend. I just push a little harder or hit them a couple times. And I'm just constantly thinking, okay, it's getting a little closer towards the light source. It's getting a little further away from the light source. It's getting a little warmer. It's getting a little cooler. It's getting a little clear. It's getting a little cloudier. All these different things. And I've kind of got my little bit of a patterning, if that's the right way to say it, or I've got my different charting of what the colors represent as they do those different things, get further away, get more towards the fog, get more towards the So we're kind of getting away from our straight bluey grays, but I think that's going to be okay. And I can always come back in and calm things down if I get too exuberant with my my palette in an area. Right, I'm still just testing. I go ahead and grab a clean brush because this brush has a lot of blue and gray, and now I'm getting to the light spots, so I may as well let the colors be a little purer. Okay, so my light is right in here. My light is right in here.
Oh, you just froze.
Yeah.
Did our session end?
No, I just think he's frozen there.
We're going to be surprised.
The OSA instructor is now the host.
Oops, are we done?
I'm guessing he's resetting it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. We decided to go on a little bit longer because we were on our critique too long.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, why it did
There you
that.
go.
You're back.
The host is
Hey, you're back.
not allowing participants to unmute themselves. Weird. Who's the host? Aren't I the host? All
We
right,
can just pin you.
great. All right, so it's coming. You guys can hear me. I have no idea what happened there. Oh yeah, the waves are starting. I just need to get rid of that weird orange force field around the right rock, and things should start to read. So let's go ahead and do that. Well,
Are you still recording?
thank you. I don't know if it is. Don't want to miss the climactic conclusion. Yeah, it is recording. Okay, good. So, all right, technology is going to keep us on our toes. Never going to let us get out easy. So I'm still working on my bright light area up above there. And still just trying to keep things related, keep things moving. That might have gotten too exciting in here, so I may definitely need to come back in and kind of soften some edges and kind of figure out what my structure is, what these little clouds are doing that are getting maybe a little too exciting all over the place, but we'll see. Everybody's able to see. I'm not seeing what the Zoom is looking like now, just because I have the reference up on my screen. So hopefully you guys are seeing it okay. I'm not blocking too much or.
Yep, it's great.
Look
Yep.
good.
We're good.
It looks a little out.
Well, I appreciate your holding, those of you that were able to. If not, I understand. Keep watching, and yeah, today's class is going a little long, and I don't mind. I'm having a good time, so
Oh,
hopefully you guys are
It
Thank
looks
you.
a little
Thank
out
you,
of
Nicole.
focus.
Thank you.
out of focus.
yeah, yeah,
Now it back.
no,
Maybe if I leave it
Yeah.
alone for a second. Every once in a while, it wants to focus on my shoulder. Is it back?
It's good.
All
It's
right.
good.
All right, let me get rid of these orange areas here, and that will help that. And then we get down to the highlights in the water. The painting will not be done at that point, but we'll have it so much covered that we'll be able to tell what needs to be done after that. We'll be able to judge and kind of read everything.
So you're just coming back in with a dry brush to
Yeah, I'm just picking up some of
blend
that,
that back in.
enough paint on the side
Okay.
that I'm able to just kind of pick up and push it in. Now I can do the inverse with the rock, the dark colors that are the rock too. So kind of giving myself a negative shapes, painting up against those edges. Yeah, there'll be a lot of opportunity to kind of come through and pick out the detail that I want. You know, like again, I don't want just big dark masses on these rocks. So I'll add some highlights. It'll be, well, low lights, I guess, more. It won't be very strong, but it'll be a little bit lighter, a little bit cooler or whatever than just this big dark mass. So hopefully that's kind of looking a little better, not having that big orange area all around the rock. Just kind of doing all the cooler areas, and then I'll come back in with some of those warmer colors as well. So let's grab some of that dark. It's in the rock, and let's bring him, but I'm going to bring him all the way over by that light. So I'm going to let that get warm. Keep it pretty dark. It's going to be pretty hot. So hopefully you're seeing that little bit of red kind of on the penumbra, kind of the edge of the rock, kind of where the rock meets the.
Is that transparent earth red?
It is both these reds and then some of the black mixed together. So, and it just kind of sent it to brown. Man, I can hear a bird in somebody's background. Sounds so nice. Sounds almost like spring's finally going to get here someday. I guess spring has been here. It's just been, I'm sure, a wet one in Oregon.
I better mute my birds.
Oh, I don't know. I like it.
Where's my? Okay, I'll leave them there.
Get out and plein air paint with those guys. Let them sing to me out there.
Well, they're all around the house. I don't have to go very far.
Good. I'm going to bring in some rocks down here. It's going to get lighter as it gets towards the mist and the action down in those in the water. So. Getting some rocks that are kind of hiding back here in the fog or in the mist, I should say, of all that action, all those crashing waves. Also, even in my rocks, even, I want them to be nice and firm and strong and structural. But there are some edges that I can actually lose, even in the rocks, if I want to help control kind of how the viewer looks a little bit, or where the viewer looks. All right, how does that look? Not having all the orange around, is that helpful?
Much
Yep.
better.
Great.
Yep.
Need a brush. Yeah, and I'll come through and clean up those orange spots that are kind of remaining in a little bit. I don't want to bore you with that. So let's get into the surf. Yay, the fun part, finally. I hope.
Yay.
We'll see. So I'm putting it down. This is the warm light that's getting from the clouds down onto the top edge of the wave. I'm going to keep cleaning my brush because it's going to keep picking up some of that darker cool paint, and where I really want it to remain, I'm just going to keep making sure I load it up. This area is going to have quite a bit of it because it's going to be misting as it's smashing against the rocks or rolling the wave over. And then it's going to come back behind here. And as much as we love that super glowy backlit wave, we've got to say goodbye to it for a little bit because this big, huge rock here is casting a nice, cool shadow, and it'll help us to control our urges of too much of a good thing, right? So if a little bit of a backlit, glowy wave is nice, then we want tons more. No, we're going to make this one special by coming back and subduing and cooling down this wave. Hopefully it'll still feel like it's related. Still the top of the wave but in the shadow of the rock. In the shadow of the rock. All right, to create this mist, I'm basically just going to create in between layers of value and color. So it's going to get a little cooler and a little less bright. So even the mist, I'm hoping kind of has a little bit of a sense of movement, like it's kind of smashing up and flying up into things and everything else. I can still use a different brush or this brush and come back in and still soften edges as I see if they need to, especially when it comes to mist. Like with mist, all these little marks that I have here are probably not helping it feel like mist. So I can just take a soft brush as a clean brush, and I can just make that gradation transition all the more subtle. That makes sense? So you kind of got these nice crisp areas
Yeah.
next to this very subtle shift. Let's get back to some of the highlights. Let's clean that brush instead. Yeah, the tough thing about highlights after painting a big gray painting is they want to get infected with that cool gray color, and I want to keep them nice and bright. So, truly I could wait for it to dry a little bit, tack up, but who's got time for that? Who's got the patience? Not us. We got waves to paint. Are you guys able to see that okay?
Yes.
Into the detail. And
Yeah. I've always wanted to paint waves, but never knew how. So thank you.
oh, my pleasure. Yeah, and I apologize to, I think it's Kate out there. I think she asked me to help her paint waves a long time ago, and I don't think I got back to it. I saw that in one of the videos of class but I think I made up for it by painting one of your photos instead. Hopefully.
So I noticed you don't use a fan brush at all. Are you just not a fan of fans?
Yeah, you know what? That just, I meant
Sorry for the
make a
pun.
t-shirt. that just says that, nada, and then a picture of a fan brush. I like that. Yeah, I own one. Don't use it. I hear good things about them. But no, I don't. But truthfully, up until about 2 years ago, well, just before COVID, I pretty much only ever used flats and flats only. It was only in the last couple of years that I started even experimenting with all these different weirdo shapes and different things. You know, and it just kind of comes down to, you know, my dad, when I was growing up, him kind of in my ear saying, you know what, you're only as good as your tools. And then also another painter whose name I can't remember right now saying that, you know, that they're just tools. They can make, you can do so much with them, and you know, it's easier with the right tool to do the right thing, you know, make the right mark. But I'm kind of glad I got so much time, and I'm using a flat now. Today I've used only flats again. I'm kind of glad I got that time to kind of force myself to get comfortable and realize how much you could do. You don't need, you know, 1,000 brushes, and you don't need them to be as soft as can be and all these things. It's all because mostly it's about pressure and angle of your brush. And you can do most things. You don't,
Interesting. Very.
There's, you know, people out there who's, you know, I can't do this because I don't have that. Or, you know, I can't paint because I don't have a studio. I can't, you know, make art because I don't have, you know, all my magical art supplies. But truthfully, you know, you should be making art even if you just have a piece of lined paper and a number 2 pencil. Yeah.
You told that story before.
I was gonna say, I do have
A college friend who was taking art classes and had a really cool studio. And then he had to move and didn't have a studio anymore. I remember that story.
Yeah, and it just happened again. He's moving again. And he was just saying how he's gonna have to take this long break from his art. And he's really sad about it. And I tried talking him out of that belief while he was driving from point A to point B to his new place, you know, cross country, in fact. And he wasn't hearing it. And so, you know, that's just, it's tough, especially I guess once we get to a certain age or whatever, or just a mindset. But I find it to be really unfortunate.
But then you were saying when you were a student in college with him, you only had a little tiny desk space, but you didn't let that stop you.
Yeah, no, and my desk was in my wife's and my new wife, my very generous new wife, even in my painting easel, they were set up in our bedroom. You know, we just had a little tiny kitchen, or not even a dining room, kitchen and a TV area or whatever you want to call it. So I think it was like, you know, 700 feet total, maybe less, maybe 500 feet. Yeah, I was able to still do all the work for college and do big paintings and everything else. And he had a gorgeous, huge, bigger than I'll ever own studio in college. Lucky guy. But now I can say maybe it was an unlucky guy. And it's funny, I was listening to one of my favorite rock musicians who made some of the, you know, most amazing, beautiful music in his home. And in fact, he would just record different instruments in different rooms because he liked the different acoustics in different rooms. And like most of it was recorded in literally the foyer. You couldn't walk through his front door because that was where the best acoustics were, at the base of his little stairs. And then he, you know, made so much money, went and bought this huge studio, bought his own recording studio and everything else, and just sat there in that space for years until he just went, you know what, I'm just going to make it at home again. And so there's something to be said. And I get studio envy all the time, or think maybe I'd be more productive if I had a space away where I'm not distracted by laundry and cats and family and everything else. But there's something so wonderful about just being able to pop up and paint anytime. And I have a nice studio. I should never, ever, ever complain. I have a very, very, very generous wife, and get to share my studio with my daughter. And, like I said, it's become the entire upstairs of my house. So I would like to have a taller ceiling. That would be fun. And maybe some better lighting, but that's things I can work on. Could even just cut a big hole into my ceiling. You think about doing that, just cutting out the area here because I'm at the peak of the roof. Anyways, I'm talking nonsense now, just jabbering while I paint. So sorry. I'm really trying to see if this actually fits, and it may be the pink, maybe too pink. I may have to go back towards a whiter, yellower color up here. What do you guys think? Does that look too pink? Does it not quite fit?
No, it looks good.
Does it looks like
Looks
Yeah,
misty.
I like it.
Misty.
Yeah,
thinking, what if I bring in some cool minty blue green right on the edge of it, maybe?
nice.
Mm.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so fun. I'm just,
It'll be
you guys have been here. We're painting somewhat by committee.
Painting by
picking
committee.
colors and having
Yeah.
experimenting together. And you guys can see that how liberating it all can be. And the key always that I just keep reminding you guys, because truthfully, I'm just reminding myself, is that it's fun. And that it's all fixable. I mean, even if the fix is simply starting over, but it's not life or death. It's not, people don't even have to know. Then nobody has to see it unless you're teaching a class and a bunch of people are watching you in your studio. But for the most part, people just never need to know if you try swing for the fences and don't succeed. Just do another one. You'll learn more by pushing yourself, by trying new things. We learn so much by our mistakes or our less than successful paintings. The whole win or learn thing that my wife likes to remind us. We win or we learn. But also we learn so much by the happy accidents, as St. Bob Ross used to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna let this get a lot lighter. I think I will be able to make. I just got to figure out what color I want to get lighter with. But I think I could really, where it's nice and foamy, I could almost get to something like that. Just let it really get gestural. But that may be a good thing to let the paint kind of dry and tack up so that,
That's fun.
it's really nice. So I'm not letting my brush touch the canvas. It's only the paint. I've loaded it up. It's got a big glob on there. And I'm just letting the paint touch the canvas, and it's grabbing off. And that's why it's not getting too mushy and grayed down, is because it's literally just pulling it off as it touches. It's not mixing with the paint underneath too much. I'm using that stickiness of that paint that's underneath to almost work like a rubbery glue that's just reaching up and grabbing the paint off my brush. So again, I'm just loading it up, looking for the motion of these foamy areas. And I probably not want to let it get too textural. I mean, yeah, I do, but I probably also will kind of want to settle down some areas, just like the wave above. A little less might be more. Same thing down here. this will be a combination. I'm gonna have to come back in here with more cools and darks as well. I just don't have as much paint down here as I would like. And I'll probably have to, yeah, carve this and give this a little more purposeful marks down below. But my idea is that it's just that kind of thick, foamy, brothy mess down here where, but yeah, I'll have to think of that about a little more. Right now, I'm just kind of covering still. I should have done it with the darks first, but hopefully that kind of gives the feeling I got to get rid of some of these oranges down in the shadow areas. Let's do that real fast because that's kind of blowing out my illusion and my feeling of what I want there. Just keep loading up that brush. There's enough paint on there that it's, yeah, really quite sculptural.
Looking good.
Oh, thank you. I really do appreciate those of you who were able to stick with me. Again, I don't know how the class went so fast. I wasn't bored for a second. Hopefully there were you. We just had a lot to cover every week. So much to share and talk about. Man,
Ooh, perfect.
it is fun. I don't know why I don't paint more waves. Waves and clouds, right? You can hardly go wrong once you get the kind of underlying structure laid in a little bit. Let's give our rocks some shadows here. Some dark side. Smarter man would be patient and find his reference photos. I know, Kate, you said, did you send pictures of the needles?
Just the one on the left, because I figured you could kind of lighten the colors for the other one.
You'd think I kind of have it memorized. I painted them, you know, out there in plein air a number of times. It's always a big question of, do I paint all the bird poop that's all over them or not, the seagull poop? Because some areas look like it almost looks like snow. There's so
Yeah,
much.
some of the photos were very, very white.
Yeah,
Streaked
it's
in many areas.
all that seagull stuff and maybe pelican.
Guano.
Guano, yeah, exactly. Or sea bats out there.
Maybe the puffins?
Maybe the puffins. That's the word I was trying to go for. Thank you. Yeah. The puffins are there, right? They just flew in like last week, I think. That's always neat to see. They're so darn cute. So definitely not enough contrast in there as of yet. So, you know, I could kind of experiment with how light I can get and, you know, where does the rock, you know, maybe it's kind of like this, that's way too light. It's almost the same value as the sky back there. So I gotta be really careful. So let's darken that. Now, what does it do? Yeah, something like this. What else? Kind of.
That one has a dark indentation at the top.
Up here. Yeah. I kind of think that might be a slightly okay place to take a break because yeah, I can paint myself, I could paint this all day. And until I see a reference, I could just be wasting yours, mine, all of our time. Also, yeah, I'll step back like this. I'll definitely get it back in here and even let that get even lighter than it is, kind of like I did with the surf down below. I think it would be fun to, you know, probably need to be warmer. That's just pure white basically, but something kind of like that, really to play that up. I had a good time, and what I will do is come through and soften some edges, get rid of this orange line out here, because I don't care if some spots the rock almost just kind of evaporates, like the edge of the rock kind of disappears away. Again, my focus is kind of, I want to keep you kind of along like this. So I may add some angles in here. Maybe play up this angle, this dark line here, and maybe this to kind of bring us in a little bit. Maybe play up that angle a little bit. So there's lots I get to think about and experiment with, and everything else. I'm going to come down, sit down, say goodbye. The homework is make an ocean painting and work with hard edges, soft edges. Yay. All right. Oh, only got a little bit of paint on my face.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Hey,
you.
thanks.
You
Thank
guys
you.
are
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
I
Super.
really do appreciate all 9 of you. That's crazy. You know, man, you guys are impressive. Don't you eat? Anyways, you deserve lunch. Go out and get your lunch. Eat something nice. Eat a piece of cake on me. You deserve it. I appreciate your time, your great questions, and your feedback. And I can't wait to see next week's paintings. And Susan, if you're still here, I will go take a look at your
Oh,
painting.
no, I want you to go get something to eat and to.
I already ate all my cake. I had to earn it. All
Well,
right. I will talk to you guys next week. Thank
Okay.
you all.
Thanks.
Have a
Thanks,
great
Michael.
week.
Thank you.
Hey, Michael, this is Catherine. Thanks so much for posting that. I've got to figure out how to do this right. So I'll see what I can do on that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
but-
I'll just put more paint on my face. Went
yeah,
to
you
wipe it
did.
off and forgot that it's in reverse. Yeah, no
So,
problem. No problem.
yeah.
If you need me to do it in the future, that's fine. But yeah, try to, I guess today's sunny, strangely.
Yeah.
yeah, really.
But yeah, an overcast day is your best day for photographing artwork.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Outside.
Outside. Okay.
Really?
All right. Because I thought, well, maybe it's because it was delineated so much on the email. So I sent it via a text message just to see if that would do it. But I don't think it did. So,
So,
but that's fine. It is, unfortunately. We'll talk later. Bye.
Okey-doke. Have a good week.
Have a good one.
so Michael,
Mhm.
Susie Siegel here. Okay, so I love your online classes. I could do this forever. I just like it. I painted like 12 years at OSA on Saturday with Dorothy.
Yeah.
I wanted to convey something to you very privately. When she got sick,
Mm.
she almost fell over, but she said, Michael Orwick is going to take my class. And in my opinion, he is the best painter out there.
Oh, whoa, that is so sweet of her. What a nice.
Unfortunately, yeah. And so I really believe what she said. I've learned so much from you. And I could go on forever. You're going to be teaching at the school, I think, but I may be wrong, this weekend.
Yeah. And there's a couple spots left if you want to join us.
I can't handle painting for 2 days straight, all hours. I'm too high energy, but these are great in the morning. But I was just wondering, is it something different than what we're doing online? because maybe I could even come for half the class. I think I'll fall over.
Yeah, and you live pretty close to OSA, don't you?
I live near, right, 6 houses from Jesuit High School, so I'm 5 minutes away.
Oh, really? You live out near Jesuit?
Yeah,
Okay.
I live in Raleigh Hills across from Fred Meyer's, and I'm 6 houses from Jesuit. I don't, you can either go to my house or go to school.
There you go. Well,
But here's the thing,
yeah, because
I wondered, is it different?
it's good to take like a little break, like just take an extended lunch
Oh.
break. And that way, paint 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon kind of a thing, and take a 2-hour break.
For the workshop, you mean?
Yeah, you're totally welcome to do that. I've got students that do all sorts of stuff. Like when I teach the weekend or the coastal workshops, I've got some students that will paint with me in the morning when I'm just painting by myself, and then
really?
we'll take the beginning of the class and then go take a 3-hour lunch. Take an hour lunch and a 2-hour nap or whatever, and then come back in the afternoon and paint when, because they also know when the light's better. If it's a plein air painting, is, earlier in the day and later in the day. In the middle of the day, it's pretty boring.
Well, to clarify my thinking, I got to make a decision if I want to do it.
Mhm.
But I want to take another online with you. Is there one to follow this? I mean, I want to just keep going with you.
Not until September.
Oh, boogers. So that would be the last option, is if I went to that one then.
Yeah, unfortunately. So this is my, daughter's senior year, and we're gonna
yeah.
do a lot of camping and
Congratulations.
stuff, and maybe get a puppy.
Well, if you saw me holding my dog, he's 15 and he's got 1 foot in the grave.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like that was my dog, my last dog forever.
Oh God, I think that's what we all say. Then they find us. But yeah, I don't want you to spend a lot of time on my painting. I wanted to do, I'm trying to paint from life, because I was always painting from pictures with Dorothy. And I went down to, where Linda Park is on Shoals Ferry Road. Like, I don't play golf. I'm not a golfer, and I'm anti-golf, but it's near the Portland Golf Course. And I posted that picture, and I don't think it was a good example, frankly, but I worked 3 days on it, and I tried to hear what you said, the horizon line. I just couldn't get the reflections great. So I'm not going to keep you, but even for next week, if you have one statement about how I could improve the reflections or something. It's not finished. I probably need a third time painting it.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing it now. I've got it up on my
I'm embarrassed. Well,
yeah, I think you know what? Truthfully, Susan, if you don't mind, I would rather you paint another at least half hour on it.
oh, okay. Yeah. That's
Or I
what
critique
thought.
it, because but you know what? You're doing so well that I think you missed in some of your other paintings.
Well, I'm a realistic painter. That's the problem.
Oh, that's all right. But you've got your horizon line nice and flat, and
Oh, I worked on that thinking of you.
yeah, exactly. And that really helps ground it. You can decide if you want to add any angles to make it slightly interesting. Let me grab a painting. I'm going to post it.
Really hard. Like, I mean, do you see when I'm moving around here? This is the paint. This one, I can't even get it up here. I don't want to post something I've painted years ago. Wait a minute. I can't. Well, I don't know. That's maybe I'll post it. It's one I did with Dorothy. Here. It's right here. See, I'm more realistic, but I want to learn to do landscape, and I want to go with you to Manuka.
Oh yeah, well that'll be next September as well.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for it. I didn't have the skills you taught me. You really taught me a lot.
Well, good.
Oh, God, I'm not kidding, because Dorothy was a potato and dumpling painter. She painted realistically, and all my paintings they're just like that. They're not
Absolutely,
not pretty like yours.
I've heard
So-
so much good things about her, though, that she's
I know.
a sweetheart.
She was a sweetheart. I miss her dearly. I mean, I painted with her for 12 years, but
Amazing.
every week. But she did highly recommend you, and I'm so glad that we have you. And I just hope that maybe you're doing such a great job. These workshops I've been in, they just get more organized, better and better. And I love it. I love the fact that if I'm at home and have to do something, I can still hear the workshop.
Yeah, isn't that nice? I
Love
like
it.
that part too, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm trying to find a painting I did, and I'm sure you've seen it. I think I shared it in one of the last classes of a bank of trees. Mine were all orange, but it was also a very, very straight horizon line. And I added just a little bit, I'm surprised I can't find it, a little bit of motion to it.
I'm taking too much of your time. I want to reimburse you for this.
Oh, no, you're okay.
But anyhow, I was thinking that, wow, that wasn't a good resource that I used. I mean, all of a sudden it got sunny, and 5 minutes from the house, I ran down on, because I'm off of Schultz Ferry Road and Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, and I got that picture. It looks so pretty, but just because it looks pretty, you can't always paint it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
So I just wondered, there's not much to say about my painting. I know I need to go over it for a fourth time and build it up. It was just deviating the reflections, because in the photograph, you could see the whole background in the reflections, and I just was unsuccessful in using my paint to get the reflections in the water of, because when you look at the real photograph, I mean, it was just like a picture of the sun reflected the trees and everything. I'm not skilled enough to do that kind of painting, I think.
Oh, I think, yeah, I think it's coming along nicely. I think what you're gonna want to do is push your lights and push your darks a little bit.
Okay.
Because right now everything's getting a little mushy. If I kind of squint my eyes,
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
really lose the shapes a little bit.
Okay.
I just wrote you a little note on the Facebook
okay.
page and added my old painting.
Oh, great. Okay.
Just so you could see that I added just a touch of movement into the bank underneath to add a
Great.
little bit of interest. Because yeah, straight will be kind of very quiet, very still. You know, horizon or horizontal lines mean kind of sleepiness and tiredness, right? Calm, so it can be very calm. But if you want it to have just a little bit of motion, then maybe figure out where you could bring in a couple little subtle angles. And you
Okay.
can definitely do that in the sky. You could do that in the ripples in the water. I think you're off to a good start, really.
Well,
It's a
I
good-
want to thank you so much. I don't want to take more of your time. And also, I don't want you to feel, frankly speaking, that every time we have a class, you have to critique my paintings.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Having problems with this one.
Your black and white reference is really nice. So look into that. Look at the values and say, wow, how are these darks so dark and the lights are so light? And then there's a little bit of the mid value. But your painting is all leaning towards dark and mid almost right now.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah,
There's no strong values. Okay.
that will be it. That'll bring out the shape and form and give it more structure and everything else.
Okay, so Gail just wrote me and said, don't you just love Michael? Yeah, so thumbs up. We are so happy.
Oh, that's so nice. Tell her thank you. Tell her,
It
oh,
was-
no, we heard you.
And I wrote back, love, love, love him. Okay,
Aw.
so I thank you for all that you do. I frankly have learned a lot. You're the next step for me after 12 years with Dorothy, but I'm not wanting to sell or anything. I just paint for myself, but I wish you could do more workshops online. And I don't know if you run out of energy or what.
They are exhausting. And the truth is, most of my money comes from my painting sales. It's like 70-80% is from, so I need to make sure I have enough time and energy for all of that.
Sure. Well, we
Just like
won't-
that big one behind me there, that's a commission I'm working on. That's the big version of your painting.
I know, I love mine so much. It's on a pedestal, a table, and I've got your book underneath. Thank you. Oh my God, it is big. Wow. Oh my God. You know, my husband said that's what they want out there, big paintings. I'm so honored to have your painting. I'll cook dinner for you and your family.
Oh, you're a sweetheart.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go because I don't want your daughter or your wife to.
Yeah, no problem. All right, well, hopefully I see you this weekend. If not, I completely
Yeah, I
understand.
gotta figure that out. So you think that I could just even do half? Okay, I gotta.
Yeah,
ponder
no,
that.
totally pace yourself. Like
Yeah.
you said, you've a lot of it will be not so much review, but you know, a chance to practice and learn some more things. And then, so yeah, so if you duck out or take a little break or whatever else, there's no problem with that. You will be able to
Okay,
catch up. You know, if you come along and we're halfway into another thing, I'll just tell you, hey, this is, a value exercise. Hey, this is about the split primary palette. And you'll be like, okay, great, I'm back.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And I look forward to there's 2 more classes here and I look forward to the color workshop in September, so count me in on that one. And okay, thank you, Mike, for everything you've done for
My
everyone.
Pleasure,
Take care.
absolutely. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Leave. How do you?